Shalom. Welcome back to B'nai Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this wisdom and inspiration with friends and family. In the beginning of the book of Leviticus, it says, God called to Moses, and he spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, a man who will come to offer from you an offering to God. And then it goes on describing in detail all the various offerings, the various sacrifices, as we call them. And here is the question. In the original Hebrew, it doesn't say just merely a person from amongst you, but rather it uses the term Adam, which is one of the terms as a reference to the human being. But it's not the common reference to the human being in the Torah. Typically, the Torah refers to the human being as ish, a man, a person. Here, it uses the term Adam, which the sages tell us is actually to teach us something. It's to teach us something very important, key, instrumental in the offerings of the sacrifices, and also we can learn from it and apply from it to every single commandment which we fulfill, every single good deed which we do. The sages tell us that one of the many reasons why God chose to present this by using the term Adam, because this brings us back to the first Adam, the very first Adam as we know him, and it tells us something. God is hinting to us, quote, just like Adam, he owned the entire world. When he brought an offering to God, he did not bring from anyone else's. Certainly, he didn't steal it. He brought it from his very own. It belonged to him. He had every right to it. So too you, when you bring an offering to God, when you offer a sacrifice to God, make sure that it doesn't come, God forbid, through thievery, through theft from someone else. This is not only a rule and a fundamental when it comes to sacrifices, the actual offerings. Rather, we know that there's a very, very important rule, which is stated several times in the Talmud, which says, mitzvah haba'ah ba'avera, a mitzvah, meaning a commandment, a fulfillment of commandment, which comes through the means of sin, which comes through the means of ill-gotten gain. So if you do any whatsoever, quote-unquote, good deed, by utilizing the spoils from a bad deed, that is an abomination, the sages tell us. And this is what's being hinted here. In the secular world, and sadly, they give this to little children to read at a very young age when their minds are still so innocent and still so impressionable, and they teach them the story of Robin Hood. And it seems to be so altruistic. It seems to be so righteous and so good. Here is somebody stealing from the rich to give from the poor. This is the antithesis of what God wants. This is so the opposite of what is really the true and correct right way for a person to behave. A person needs to do good. A person has no justification. In fact, it's absolutely wrong to steal from others. Doesn't matter if that person is a multi-billionaire. But when you steal $1 from them, you've stolen a whole dollar. Even if you stole a penny, you've stolen a whole penny. That's a whole entity. That is stealing. As long as it constitutes stealing, it's a sin. It is not what God wants us to do. In fact, it's the opposite of what God wants us to do. He does not want us to do it. And to take that and to channel it now to quote-unquote fulfillment of God's will, that's actually like a slap in the face to God. That is an abomination. It's even worse than just stealing itself, and it's even worse than just not fulfilling the commandments of God. Thus, we have to be very careful. Whenever we perform a mitzvah, whenever we perform a commandment, fulfill a commandment of God, whenever we're out there doing a good deed, we need to make sure that that is clean of any negativity, that is clean of any whatsoever sin, any whatsoever ill gain that is not in the, so to speak, favorable view of God himself.